everyone, and welcome back to Women Power Impact, a podcast where we discuss women doing impactful work through nonprofits and community organizations for other women in marginalized communities. Today, we're speaking to Emily Aylott, the CEO of an organization called Mothers Against Addiction. Emily, thank you so much for being here today. Go ahead and introduce yourself and share a little bit about your organization.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. So Mothers Against Addiction is a phenomenal nonprofit. We service all over the nation, along with Mexico and Canada, giving free counseling and resources to people who have loved ones with addiction. Even though it's called Mothers Against Addiction, we do service brothers, sisters, cousins, you name it. The beauty of it is we're a free resource. So those who can't afford it can still get offered the free counseling services.
Awesome. And when I introduced you, I said CEO. How did you end up arriving at this role?
That's actually a funny story. I worked for a separate nonprofit, and I did lectures and was talking on that nonprofit, and a clip of me talking for that nonprofit was posted on LinkedIn by somebody. And the clip that was posted talked about women empowerment and breaking community stigmas. And that clip was seen by the previous CEO of Mothers Against Addiction. She reached out to me and wanted me to do a guest speaking event with MAA. And I said, oh, that'd be fantastic. Let's talk. And through a Zoom meeting, we chit-chatted for a very long time. And the next day she called me and said, we actually have a VP position open. Would you be interested? So I started out at MAA as VP, and then she ended up leaving the previous CEO. And then I filled in as CEO for a little bit. And then the board said, hey, do you want to be officially CEO? So I've been doing that for about a year now.
Awesome. Fantastic. And you did mention the whole free resource for people to access. So what kinds of things do you offer as part of the organization?
Yeah, we offer one-on-one counseling. We offer family counseling, and we also offer groups. So we have a female-only group on Tuesday nights. We have a co-ed group on every other Thursday. And then we also have guest speaker events where we try to find members of the addiction or women empowerment community to come talk on a Saturday morning. We record it. So if you can't make it to the live event, we always post it on our YouTube channel. And then if you look on our website too, we also have resources for government agencies like SAMHSA that give local resources like homeless shelters or rehab centers or local your own tailored local needs.
Yeah. So I get and going along with the work that you do, and then also the your CEO position. What kind of work do you do as the CEO specifically? What do you find yourself on a daily basis doing?
So since we're a nationwide nonprofit, we're actually all spread out, all of us throughout the country. I'm actually located up in New England. I'm originally from Massachusetts. Now I live in New Hampshire. So since we are virtual, it's a lot of emails, a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of calls. And then we try to do in-person events every year. But yeah, it's making sure everybody's needs are met, making sure everybody's heard. I think the beauty of nonprofits is you can kind of tailor the structure of your nonprofit to fit your workers' needs. I think it's less rigid. I think it's less main organizational based. But you can meet the needs of those people, and you can hear them better. I love that since we are from all over, we're such a melting pot of different views and perspectives and ideas. So I love how my job as CEO is very much seeing people's talents thrive and hearing the different ideas that they can bring to the table to help MA grow and be successful.
Awesome. And as always, I always ask this question, but how can people in the community support the efforts of your organization? Do you take donations? Do you have volunteers for things? Do you need people for events? How does that go?
So since we're a 501c3 grant nonprofit, we accept donations, we accept sponsorships, and we apply for grants federally and statewide. And so people can always donate. We always accept donations. It goes towards our counselors giving the free counseling time. And we also do events to next spring. We're planning an addiction awareness walk. So people could obviously sign up for that. They could donate. They could sponsor. They could make their own teams. And, if all the stars align, we're looking on doing a gala event possibly next year, which would be really cool. So that would also open up volunteer and fundraising opportunities also.
Awesome. And you mentioned applying for federal grants. And this was a question that we had kind of talked about when I first met with you. But how has nonprofit work changed for you in any way? Just based on the current administration, all of the changes that are being made. How does that work?
Oh, yes. So since we are a nationwide organization, we are allowed to apply for federal-based grants because our actual, we don't have a technical brick and mortar. MAA originally started in Alaska many years ago, and our main address on all of our 990s, all of our paperwork is still Alaska. But since we're a federal organization, we reach everybody. Federal grants are very slim pickings right now because of the government situation we're in. And it's kind of at the whims of politicians right now, which is tough. So a lot of things that are being cut are free mental health services, free addiction services, and we happen to fall under both categories. We're not necessarily treating addiction. We're helping treat the loved ones that are affected by somebody with addiction. So we do fall under the mental health and counseling category. But across the board, cuts are being made and it's getting tougher and tougher. So having really great sponsors or people who want to donate really is what is keeping us afloat right now.
Yeah. And that was something that I found very interesting because I'm very obviously interested in nonprofits. That's this entire podcast, and also kind of the whole politics sphere. And following all of this, I was obviously so many things have been impacted, like NIH grants and stuff, but I hadn't thought about all of the nonprofit, federal funding. And that was very interesting to hear. So yeah, I hope that people who listen to this will understand, realize. But you kind of touched on this, that you provide support for family members of those who have loved ones going through addiction. So why is that support so important? Obviously it is, but what have you learned as part of leading this organization and seeing all the various aspects of it? How you found that so important?
Yeah, I think I'm a strong believer in one size does not fit all, right? We're not the only support service for loved ones. We're not the only standalone counseling service that supports this. And I strongly encourage everybody who visits MAA to reach out to Al-Anon or PALS or everything and get as much information as you can, because take what you want and leave what you don't. And some things help, some things don't. And I love hearing our counselors and their ideas and their resources. Some people love the 12-step program. Some people seek a higher power. Some people, not everything works for everybody. And I love hearing and talking about MAA because we might be the right fit for somebody. We might have the right little tidbit of knowledge that might make the biggest difference for them. Because at the end of the day, everybody's loved one is very different. Some loved ones, they need stricter boundaries. They need that tougher love. Some loved ones, they just need to feel more loved. Some, and it really is not one size fits all. So I think one thing I've learned is that I'm never going to stand on a pedestal and say MAA is the best of the best and it's going to solve everything, be wonderful. I think we have an amazing team and we do amazing work. But I highly encourage people to check us out because we might have that piece that helps, but also check out other places because maybe we can work in tandem with another one and really, really make a difference.
Yeah, I love that. And kind of similarly, what has been your favorite aspect of being part of this organization? The most satisfying aspects of your work?
Yeah. Just as a whole. So So I've worked in healthcare since I was a teenager. And I always was like, I want to work in healthcare because I want to help people. And I worked really hard. I got a lot of degrees and I moved up the ladder. And I got to the point where I was sitting at tables with people in suits who never took care of a patient. They were very money driven, which, financial institutes have to be, hospitals have to be profitable to stay open. And I get that. But it kind of took away the sense of why I was there. And that's when I started working in nonprofits. And I love MA because at the end of the group session, you hear the moms and everybody else be like, man, I needed this. I needed to open up. I needed to have that connection. I needed to feel heard. And it just kind of reignited that spark in me that I lost, that I really craved for a long time. And so I think that's my favorite part is the real time, almost gratification of feeling like you're a part of helping these people.
Yeah. And that's actually really interesting to like switch from like this kind of corporate structure to nonprofit work, which is again, something that I have myself like considered a lot this even like, what do I want to do in the future? Because I love nonprofit work, but also like corporate is almost like the expectation a little bit. So it's like, it's very interesting to hear. And this might kind of lead along into this question, but has your work in this organization changed your worldview, your perspectives, the way you see things? In what way?
Yeah. I think so. A separate nonprofit I've worked for, I think faces stigmas that more correlated to my personal life. So I very much was aware of like societal stigmas, but it wasn't until I really got into the field of addiction where I realized it's 2025 and there's still so much negativity around that word addiction. And, I think as a whole, like just being impacted and seeing the perspective of people still looking down on that is bananas. I think the actual statistic is like 95% of people in the United States are connected to somebody who has some form of addiction. So it's not a taboo thing anymore, or at least it shouldn't be, in my perspective. It's healthcare, it's counseling, it's services to help support our community. And, I think that's one thing that really opened my eyes was that even though it's 2025, people still have this very poor perception around it. And it kind of fuels me to want to talk about it more and bring more awareness to it, because that's how we're going to break down barriers, is opening up the conversation for it.
Yeah. And that's actually very interesting because someone we've had on the podcast before, she works for an organization called Sojourner House, and they're more like locally based in the Pittsburgh area where I'm from. But I answered the same question, and they do support services for women going through addiction and their families and everything. And she mentioned kind of something similar, but this idea that like, I think addiction also comes with, like, you see like a very kind of particular person, just like how the media portrays like a certain person who is addict. But like she's seen like people from like so many different, like people who come from like corporate, like they're lawyers and they've like achieved all these degrees, but they're also experiencing addiction, to people who have really struggled throughout their entire lives with it. And so I think kind of that relates. It's like so many different people from all different walks of life experience it. Like almost everyone knows someone who has or is connected to someone who has it. So this idea of taboo, I would 100% agree. And that was an interesting connection. But yeah.
Like addiction doesn't discriminate. So like, I don't understand why we do about this topic. Like one of our guest speakers last month, he's an amazing guest speaker, Jeff Lamb, if you ever have a chance to check him out. He was a Juris Doctor, super successful. And his drinking and drugs, he'd party all night long, zero sleep, and then go in a courtroom the next morning. And it never hit him because he was just fully functioning. He was, I'm successful. I'm doing all this stuff. And, sometimes you got to hit rock bottom to realize you do have a problem. And he did. And he turned his life around. And now he actually is an amazing spokesperson for the addiction world in New England. He did an amazing talk with us last month. And I think that definitely feeds off what you said. It affects everybody, anybody, whoever. And it definitely changes your perspective. It's not the very stigmatized what media wants us to think addiction looks like. It's everywhere.
Yeah. And also, I always usually wrap with this question, but what advice do you have for young women, young people in the coming generation, not just it can be about like dealing with addiction, those kinds of things, but just also in general, something that you've learned from your entire career?
Yeah. I think branch out and try new things. If I stuck on the path of like climbing up the corporate healthcare ladder for a long time, and then I got to a place and I was like, was this really the end goal for me? It wasn't fulfilling what I always hoped it was. And I think sometimes you get so fixated on the destination that you forget about the journey. And I looked back and I thought there were so many opportunities for me to try something different, but I was so fixated on just being the top of the top. And now I am in a, avenue that like I never initially connected with. I never thought about, and I absolutely adore it. I love it. I've met the greatest people. And if I didn't take that leap of faith and join that Zoom call because of the message on LinkedIn, I never would have been here. So, just like try things out, try new things. You might find the thing that scratches your itch the most and is the best thing for you.
Yeah. I think that resonates with me because, again, like as a high schooler, I'm applying to colleges this summer and continuing. And also it's just like, you get like this idea of like, okay, do this, go here and like pick what makes the most money and like stable and then like see what happens. But it's like, I also have seen people completely switch up and it's like, it's very interesting. And so I think that's something that I definitely want to take to heart from this. But yeah, I think that wraps up at least this segment. Thank you so much for being here and talking about Mothers Against Addiction. I'm very excited. And that wraps up our episode for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you back soon for the next episode of Women Power Impact.